So, I'm gonna actually do this one, and we can actually do this Coach Red Pill video. This was back in December. This is a Coach Red Pill video back from December, and let's listen to it.
Have you noticed how the left has sort of like monopolized the minority vote, and yet minorities, the situation of minorities is not improving?
Well, yeah, because the other party says they actively hate minorities. We had a whole big political realignment of back in the '60s, and then of course we have the Southern Strategy, and the whole thing about economic injustice, which has caused a lot of people to be, poor across the board, and particularly minorities because they didn't have the built-in wealth because of redlining and targeted policies to go after the minority, to go after the minority populace to kind of get them from voting for Democrats instead of making sure that there is a concerted effort to vote for it's just a concerted effort to not to win minority votes by the Republican Party. But what goes on against political information and science that we have, right? Right.
You see this in urban centers where the minorities are the dominant demographic in the big cities and the Western democracies. And these minorities, they all tend to vote in bloc. They all tend to vote 90% for the left-wing parties.
Yeah, of course, because the left wing parties are pretty much the parties of the big cities and big populism. And of course, the more right wing, what's called in a derogatory term, flyover states, because there's not too much population centers. And, that's why we need to actually have a candidate say that may actually believe in a socialistic way of looking at governments, but still in a democratic way where we actually look for economic growth for all parties. And maybe that would actually, you know, I don't know, erase some of the divisions of hatred when we all come together to work to make sure that everybody has a living wage and universal healthcare as a right and not just a privilege that you can actually buy into. Yeah, no. I don't know what Kennedy would actually believe that.
Right? And so the left-wing parties dominate these urban centers, and yet these urban centers are pigsties in some cases, right? They're complete disasters.
You said to some cases, yes, there are a lot of wealth that is actually being moved around by mostly the Republican Party and some of the Democratic Party that actually are going into an oligarchy where it is draining money from people at the bottom in order to maintain a stranglehold on the plutocracy that we have. Well, we're not really at a plutocracy yet, but we're definitely at an oligarchy.
And they certainly do not help the minority population. On the contrary, it's like in these great urban centers, things are getting worse all the time. This is
So here's the thing. This is the shit that kind of fucking pisses me off about motherfuckers like this. This is the same talking Trump that, points that Donald Trump actually used. What the fuck is this? What did I drop on the? Hold on, guys. I don't even know what the fuck that is. I don't know. But it's the same talking points that you actually saw with Donald Trump said. Oh, minorities. The Democratic Party hasn't done anything for minorities. At least they don't support the people that are actively trying to fucking hurt minorities by, I don't know, building a wall. I don't know, putting kids in a detention center and actually separating them from their families where they have died from illnesses that can be treated in sanitary environments. But yeah, the left keeps minorities down. That whole concentration camp thing, that's not keeping minorities down. Yeah, no.
This isn't an accident. This is not an accident. The left learned a lesson from supporting the working class. And more to the point, the left learned the lesson that if they actually help a group of people who politically supports them, that group of people will eventually betray them.
What? Wait. What? Do you actually hear what you fucking said, dude? The left learned that they support a political class. Yeah, that that's how voting works. I mean, like, did I miss something? Like, for real, did I just really miss something with that? And yeah, okay, portray as in like, yeah, the Democratic Party is 75% bought out by oligarchs. The Republicans is 100% bought out. But let's continue.
Like the working classes did. See, the working classes, yeah, they used to vote for the left. Yeah, the poor working classes, the factory workers and whatnot, they used to vote en bloc for the left-wing parties. And what happened as the
Whoa, let me just make sure I explain this problem for you. So, over time, the Democratic Party actually moved towards more neoliberal goals and neoliberal policies where the working class felt that they were squeezed out. And here you have somebody who pretended to be a fake populist, Donald Trump, actually came and says, you don't have to work hard. I'm going to solve all your problems. And I'm different, which we find that he wasn't. He just was different because he was the same thing on steroids with the mask off. And yeah, no, that's why they are abandoning him. And that's why he's so scared of Bernie Sanders. I swear to God, this is not going to be the Bernie Sanders love stream today. No, that's not. That those are reserved for Thursdays. But yeah, that's what happened. The people didn't leave the left. They didn't portray the left, the quote unquote left that we have in this country. Betrayed the people. But let's continue.
the economy improved, as the pay of the working classes improved, they started becoming more and more conservative. Of course, because see, if you have
No, they didn't. Wages have flatlined for the last fucking. It's compared to productivity. Wages have flatlined. If you compare it to inflation, wages in some cases have gone down. People didn't become more conservative. They became, I need to make sure I take care of myself because I'm struggling right now. The election of Donald Trump was a big, I'm hurting and I need help. That's what happened. But let's continue.
absolutely nothing, right? You have $0 in your bank account. You're flat broke. Of course, you don't care if somebody else is taxed because it's not going to affect you because you don't have anything to tax, right? So if you're poor, if you're flat broke, you're like, sure, tax the rich. I don't care. Tax the middle classes. I don't care. But once you become middle class, and more to the point, once you see that your children could potentially rise up into the upper middle classes or even the upper classes, they might even become wealthy. You might even become wealthy. Well, then you don't want to pay that much tax now, do you?
And that's the lie that we've been sold for so long. The lie that we've been sold is, oh, one day you're going to make it because of the American dream. People have still been waiting for that one day that they will make it. The fact is, that has been thoroughly sold to us that, hey, as an American, you're gonna get older and you're gonna buy a fucking house and you're gonna settle down with your high school sweetheart. The American dream that was sold to a lot of people was never real. For some people, yeah, there are always exceptions to the rule, but this is why we have the problem of incels. This is the reason why we have the problem of so many people that are hatred of people that's not like them because they felt that they were promised something. And because of this person, this immigrant, this person who wants to just express themselves in a way that's different from what you expect, it's their fault. At first, it was the black people's fault. Then it was the now it's the Hispanics, or it was the Middle Easterners. We have to spend all this money to make sure that we're safe, so your kids can't go to college, or your kids have to sign up to go fight a half a world away. People like this disgust me. They disgust me because they know what the fucking problem is, but because they're the snake oil salesman of this age, this generation, because they know the best way for them to make money, the best way for them to escape is to effectively sell you to lynch your neighbor, to step down on the person that's right next to you because they're the problem. Let's continue.
You become a lot more conservative. You become a lot more conservative naturally. And it's not just an issue of taxation, it's an issue of conservatism overall. Because if things are going good for you, you don't want to rock the boat. You want to keep on going good, right? Yeah. And that's what happened to the working classes in the 20th century, especially the late 20th century, starting with the deregulation of the economies in the very late 70s, early 80s, under Margaret Thatcher and Francois Mitterrand and Ronald Reagan. See, the working classes started to rise up. They started to make more money. And of course, they became more conservative and they started voting.
No, no. Now, yes, if you were talking about the boomers like yourself, literally boomers like yourself, who actually had money in making sure that they can get equity in their home and home prices are soaring, and destroyed the millennial generation's even capability of getting wealth, then of course, yeah, fuck you, pay me. That's the mentality. And you know what? The sad part about it is it's now coming to bite you guys in the ass. Let's continue.
Conservative. Yeah? Back before 1979, back in the mid 70s and earlier, the idea of a conservative government controlling any one of the big Western democracies was considered absurd. Everybody knew that conservatism was sort of like dead. But as the economies improved because of deregulation, as more people became wealthier, they became more conservative. As the working classes started doing better, they became
Like, is he really like? I'm at a loss of words. Like, does he really think things became better? And maybe it's just me being in my bubble during the 80s and 90s, where you start to see more and more people actually, it's becoming more and more of a thing where people had to work multiple jobs in order to maintain a okay standard of living. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe because of the area that I grew up in. Maybe it's because the era I grew up in. I don't see rise to this rise of in economic power. I saw factories closing. I saw crime skyrocketing because people were just living in despair. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe, or you know what? Maybe he's lying and playing to an audience that thought, yeah, I did a little bit better this particular time, or playing to an audience that wasn't there at that time. I can almost guarantee you his demographics are young men who think that everything was great back in the 80s and 90s who weren't there. But let's continue.
Became more conservative, and they abandoned the left-wing parties. And the left-wing parties never forgot that lesson. Oh no, they never did, because they saw it. They lived through it. They saw how election after election would be lost because the working classes, their former allies, well, they become more conservative because their lot was better. The situation of the working classes, by improving, by actually fulfilling the dreams that so many left-wing politicians had dangled in front of them, right?
No, no. We had a bubble. We had the tech bubble that burst in the mid 90s. And then it went bubble after bubble after bubble. What happened is there started to seep in a lot of systemic corruption when campaign financing laws were actually leaned and deregulated more and more. Like, where was this guy at that he was seeing this bullshit that he's talking? Like, literally, I think he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
They abandoned the left-wing parties. And the left wing never forgot that, never forgave the working class this betrayal. Oh no. The left wing parties tried to adjust, especially during the 90s with Tony Blair and Bill Clinton. They essentially pivoted and basically advocated.
As I would have thought, he has a paywall. Didn't actually answer anything in his video other than left wing parties got mad because they felt betrayed. People like this is dangerous because he's not talking to people that were actually there. He's literally talking to people who weren't old enough to remember. I became 18 2000. I was there. I remember this shit. It's nowhere near the bullshit he's talking about. I don't know. And I don't have the patience or the, quite frankly, the money to spend to become his patron. Speaking of which, guys, did you know that Crimson 60620 has a Patreon page? It's Crimson 60620 PS4 Gaming. And if you want to actually help donate and help me do more stuff on my stream, or want to actually help support my channel, it would actually help if you actually liked and subscribed